We're now joined by Dr. William Bill Connell, who is Motta Chair of Italian Studies at Seton Hall University, one of our higher education partners. Good to see you, Doctor.
Great to see you, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Listen, I grew up as a young Italian-American boy in Newark, New Jersey, all around Italian-American culture my whole life. Connell is not an Italian. Just clarify this for me.
No.
It is not an Italian last name.
It is an Irish name, and my parents came from Wisconsin with Irish and German backgrounds, and so there's probably not a day in my life that someone doesn't ask, why have you devoted your life to Italian history, Italian American history?
Go ahead, answer it.
And there's a long one, but the short answer: as a boy of 7, playing stickball in the streets of Yonkers with Italian American boys, their grandmothers would come out to give the kids cookies at 3 o'clock. And the grandmothers didn't speak English. And they would give 2 cookies to the little Irish boy who said a word in Italian.
By the way, Bill, let's have a whole separate conversation on Irish-Italian interaction and the disproportionate number of marriages between, my wife happens to have Irish background as well. There's an Irish-Italian thing that is fascinating on many levels. Let's leave it at that, okay?
Another show, great.
That's another show. Real quick, do this for us. There are 17 million Italian Americans living in the United States. Italian American culture is deeply embedded in certain communities, but at the same time, growing up in Newark, Sunday dinner was what it was. Gravy is gravy, not sauce. We'll go into that's another conversation as well. But growing up in the community I grew up in, virtually everyone was Italian American. It was a big part of our lives. As kids and their families started moving and spreading out all over the place, I was in Newark, New Jersey. To what degree are you concerned about Italian American culture being lost in our country?
Well, first of all, it's in the country, 5th largest ethnic group according to the census. New Jersey, however, is the single largest ethnic and racial group.
Number one.
So it is an issue with assimilation, mixed marriages, moving to the suburbs, and so it's a question that we address in the book that I've just published.
Talk about that book, Bill.
Yeah, it's called The Routledge History of Italian Americans. Big book, 700 pages. It's an attempt of my attempt and attempt of a good number of scholars and collaborators, or 40 of us, to give a textbook for Italian American history, so that in our classes that have growing numbers of students in Italian history would have a good textbook that tells the accurate story.
And that book won a full, what award did that win?
Oh yeah, so I was flown to Rome. I was flown to Rome for a ceremony at the Foreign Ministry and the American Embassy. The Fulbright relationship between the United States and Italy is 75 years old. And so this project was awarded that special honor. It was really a great thing.
Congratulations, Bill. Do this for us. I want to ask you about this, and I want you to expound upon it. So my grandfather, Luigi Cavallo, came to the United States from, people say Naples, but you know well that it wasn't really Naples. Many people came from small towns, villages outside of Naples, but it was Provincia of Avellino, and I know you know what I'm talking about. But he came here in 1919. 7 years later, Vincenza Cavallo, he sent for her because he came here to make a living, and until he could afford her coming here, that's when she came here. 7 years they waited for each other. That's another story. Why do I raise this? Because many Italian Americans whose parents and grandparents came from Italy talk about immigration in a certain way and believe that immigration today is dramatically different. Am I oversimplifying that?
I think immigration today involves a lot of the same issues: financial stress, families in their homeland. Very important that way. But there's something special about the Italian American experience. I see it as really 2 experiences of migration, especially strong in the case of Newark, which you just mentioned. That is, there's a distancing, a sense of alienation, of wondering where your future is going to be, that comes from leaving the homeland, from leaving Italy. But there's a second migration that takes place in the 1960s, 70s that you know very well from Newark. Your father combated, did everything he could to deal with that sense of alienation and bring people together. But there's also a sense of old homelands of Little Italy's being lost. That I think that second era of second aspect of alienation is important for Italian Americans.
By the way, the term Little Italy, people talk about Little Italy as if it's Mulberry Street in Lower Manhattan, and which is not what it was. But our family, there was a Little Italy in what was called the Old First Ward in Newark, New Jersey, by St. Lucy's Church, the St. Gerard Feast. Take a look at the programming we've done on that. The reason I say that there are Little Italies all across this nation. And in those communities where my parents, grandparents were from, they were poor, they were together, they supported each other, but not overly complicated, but many of those communities don't exist any longer. Is that fair to say, Professor?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in Newark, there were at least three. I mean, there's also in the Ironbound, there was a Little Italy, and also around St. Rocco's Parish.
That's right.
Largest was was the North Ward,
right.
and where you were around St. Louis. But yeah, a lot of them have disappeared, and yet there's an attachment and nostalgia. So as you well know, I've gone to weddings and funerals at St. Lucy's. There's this return from the suburbs back to these old places. The church is very important in those.
It sure is. And by the way, Bill, I'm sure in Bill's book, The Routledge History of Italian Americans, will also explain this, I'm sure, that the disproportionate number of Italians who came to the United States, the first wave in the 1890s and other the immigration effort, or the immigration initiative from Italy to the United States, not from the North, but from the South. Yeah. Poor, difficult to find work, a totally different culture than Rome and Florence and other places. So when people talk about Italians in Italy, Sicily's another story, but the bottom line is that many Italies, are there not? Real quick before I let you go, Bill?
Yeah. So they settle in these what are known as urban villages. So often people from the same town would gather together and recreate a kind of village with a parish church, with a baker, with a sausage shop, with a printer, with a mutual aid society. And it would be a kind of reproduction of the town in Sicily or Provincia d'Avellino or Calabria or wherever.
Do you know what that was called? They called the Paese?
Yeah, the Paese. You know, the Paese is and the people within that, they were the paisans. You know, within
paisan. We'll have an offline conversation, Professor Dr. Bill Connell, Motta Chair of Italian Studies at the Seton Hall University. Thanks, Bill. We'll talk offline more about this stuff. I'm too passionate about it. It's an Italian thing. Stay with us. We'll be back after this.
You will.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by NJM Insurance Group, Citizens Philanthropic Foundation, New Jersey's Clean Energy Program, Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, New Jersey Sharing Network, the Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and by the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Promotional support provided by New Jersey Globe and by New Jersey Monthly.
NJM Insurance Group has been serving New Jersey businesses for over a century. As part of the Garden State, we help companies keep their vehicles on the road, employees on the job, and projects on track. Working to protect employees from illness and injury, to keep goods and services moving across the state. We're proud to be part of New Jersey. NJM, we've got New Jersey covered.